unless we get one of those, all shore matchups.
WOBM Lakewood Township, WADB Asbury Park. Listen online at WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
And a very good Thursday evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Night High School Football Show here on the Shore Sports Networks, 1160 and 1310 AM, along with shoresportsnetwork.com from a boisterous Baker's Water Street Grill in downtown Toms River on a unseasonably warm late October evening. I'm Kevin Williams along with Matt Harmon. For once, we get to say Ed Sarluca on assignment.
On assignment, yeah. It's been us the last couple of weeks, and the coach takes the night off, hopping somewhere around the state of Florida, as he often likes to do.
He's absolutely no question. He'll be back with us tomorrow night for our Jersey Mike's Game of the Week when we are at the home of the Brick Green Dragons for their contest with Toms River North, and that'll be part of the focus of tonight's show, because in the house, as they say at the Water Street Grill, is Mariner head coach Dave Ozowitz and his outstanding senior offensive lineman Luke Butero. We'll chat with them, get their take on tomorrow night's showdown that could decide the Class A South Championship. Will certainly, regardless, have a major impact on it, but it could be decide the race. Also on the show tonight, guy doing a great job. First-year Asbury Park head coach Tim Foscue. His Bishops lost their opener in overtime to Point Pleasant Beach, have reeled off consecutive wins since then, and are in position where possibly in 2 weeks they're playing Shore for a piece of a division title. We'll talk with one of the Shore's outstanding running backs, senior Tyler Thompson of Ocean. Broke his leg a year ago, having a big bounce-back senior season. Of course, our guy, Bob Batters from the Shore Sports Network, will look at this weekend's big matchups. And we wrap it up tonight with our weekly conversation with the Monmouth University head coach, Kevin Callahan. Very interested to hear his take on last week's near stunning upset of the number one team in the nation. And, Matt, I was, as you know, away last weekend in Baltimore and following the game on my phone on Saturday. And honestly,
were you tapping it, thinking, "Is this right? Is
this
on?"
I was following, the guys on Twitter, the Monmouth guys on Twitter, and the first time I saw the score, and it was already like in the third quarter, I thought it was a mistake. I was shocked.
It was it was an exciting game, and boy, it was just that close. And I know you've been to several of them, having been the PA guy there for the last couple of years. It was the best homecoming atmosphere that the school has had in forever. I mean, normally on homecoming, you bank on 40 and rain with wind and sometimes sleet, hail, and snow. The weather was great. The crowd was fantastic. It was a crowd that left at a halftime because you can go back out in the parking lot, and this year came back in to watch the game. And it was really an exciting game to call and be part of. And, as young as Monmouth is, and I don't know what their record's going to be at the end of the year with now just 3 games left, the last 2 weeks give you some hope, I think, that, this is going to be a football program that moving forward, especially with Coastal moving out of the Big South next year, that if things continue to build and go in this direction, Monmouth's going to be okay in the next couple of years.
I'm interested in talking with Coach Cal tonight. I know that coaches always give you that there's no such thing as a good loss, but are there ones that are better than others? So get his take on it as you guys head down to outside of Atlanta this weekend for a Big South matchup with Kennesaw State. So we'll do that, but of course we start with high school football. We start last weekend, and being away, I missed the game you broadcast, the Jersey Mike's matchup in which number 1 ranked Middletown South remained undefeated with, I'll use the word methodical by all accounts, a methodical 21-3 victory over Brick Memorial, who's 6th in the Shore Sports Network top 10. And your take on that game?
Strange. And I say that not in a disrespectful way. I thought that the game never really took off and had great flow to it. When you have two good teams, sometimes you get those games that, and I won't say it didn't live up to the hype because I thought it was still a good football game, but there was a lot of turnovers. There was penalties during the course of the night, and things that you don't really expect of two good football programs like a Middletown South, like a Brick Memorial. There were some uncharacteristic mistakes, and I don't know if it was nerves, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't walk out of that game saying, like, boy, what a great game we just saw. It was just kind of those, okay, Middletown South winning again. I think more people left that game saying, does this warrant Middletown South still being the number one team? Not in the Shore, because I think that's pretty secure at this point, but still the number one team in the state, because I think there were some questions after that game as to maybe how good they are. And I know they're a good football team. And I think the one thing that you can take away from it is it's hard to get up every week, even going into a big game. I mean, look at how the schedule has gone for them. They've had some big ones over the course of the last couple of weeks and will now moving forward. And credit Brick Memorial that I think they had the right game plan. They just couldn't execute when they really needed to.
You know, the one thing that stood out was the Memorial offense has really lived on the back of their senior quarterback, Tim Santiago, who came in as the leading rusher in the Shore, really got held in check. So I'll ask you the question. On a night when Santiago is controlled, do the Mustangs have enough to win offensively?
Well, here's what I would say, and we talked about this during the course of the second half. I think all three of us, myself, Ed, and Chris Barnes, who worked the game with us, he's done a bunch of games for us during the course of this year and will be with you guys tomorrow night. I think we kept waiting for Brick Memorial to kind of throw it into another gear. And I don't necessarily mean throw it, all over the place, but we didn't see like a no-huddle offense. They were still huddling in the fourth quarter. And I just don't think it's really in their who they are, their makeup.
DNA almost.
Yeah, to have to go real fast because during the course of this year, they've been so used to playing ahead. You kind of waited for them to go, and I think the questions, and rightfully so, walking out of that game against Brick Memorial, even though right now they're still tops in their state bracket, is if they get behind in a state game, are they going to have enough to make it up? And I don't think that's a question that anybody really knows the answer to right now.
Middletown South, by the way, the bye this weekend, probably a good week to get off and sort of get yourself ready for the home stretch. Brick Memorial, by the way, heads to Toms River South tomorrow night. The other game, Matt, I guess from last weekend that kind of stood out was, I guess it was billed as the Bounce Back Bowl. Red Bank Catholic and Manalapan both coming off losses the week before. Rare for both of them over the last couple of years. Who would prevail? Eddie Hahn had a huge night for RBC, one of the better passing nights of the season for any Shore quarterback, and the Caseys prevailed by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think what we saw is Manalapan has taken a step back a little bit this year, and RBC will still be a good football team. And when you think about things for the Caseys, not to look too far ahead, because I know that we'll talk about Ocean football later, but what a miserable stretch of the schedule for RBC. Red Bank Regional, Manalapan, and now you got to play an Ocean Township team, which last week had their bye, and at 5-1, that's a pretty tough matchup. And in years past, you'd say, RBC, they'll take care of things. They're not the team that they were over the last couple of years, but I think a real important win for them coming off that loss to RBR, just to make sure that they can solidify a little bit. I mean, who would think going into a year that RBC would have lost 2 games in a row, let alone 1 at any point during the course of the year?
As I look at this week's Barnabas Health top 10 around the Shore, Middletown South, as we've said, has been that number one team all season long. St. John Vianney just rolling, crushed Donovan Catholic last weekend, and really full sail ahead to a possible clearly a state appearance, but maybe going deep into the state playoffs this year. Brick at number 3, undefeated, a team we'll see tomorrow night. We'll spend a little bit on them later. Red Bank having this resurgent year, led by a group of seniors, the number 4 team. Rumson is 5th. Brick Memorial is 6th. Toms River North is 7. One might say, well, why is Brick Memorial ahead of Toms River North? Because Brick Memorial beat Toms River North. So handily, that is the reason there. Red Bank Catholic is 8th. Matchup with number 9 Ocean, as you mentioned, and the Blue Devils of Shore rounding out the top 10, and a good game maybe coming up a couple of weeks in Shore at Asbury Park.
I don't say this very often, and I know at some point during the course of the next few weeks, I'm sure we'll talk about it because we always do. One of the games I would pay money to see this year, St. John Vianney and Middletown South. I mean, what a matchup that would be. Because having seen now both teams live and in person, we did the Lancers earlier in the year against Central Regional and Middletown South last week against Brick Memorial. 2 pretty good opposing teams to get a decent feel and a good gauge as to how they are. That would be an amazing football game, and I would love to see how St. John Vianney and their weapons offensively would match up against that linebacking core for Middletown South.
We're not going to see that game.
No, we won't. We won't. Unless we can create, I got one for you. Let's create an app where you take the teams in the Shore Conference, old school like Techno Bowl, and have a matchup and see, how it goes. That would be a great football game.
Well, we've got what we think will be a very good one coming up tomorrow night. Toms River North at Brick. And we'll preview that and talk a little bit about this Mariners team and Mariners season with their head coach Dave Osowitz and outstanding senior guard Luke Butera. We do that after this. You're listening to the Thursday Night Football Show on the Shore Sports Network.
Water Street Bar and Grill in downtown Toms River is the ultimate sports bar. With 32 HD TVs, Water Street brings you all of the action of every football game. Located right on the water, Water Street is the perfect place to enjoy the finest views of the shore. Whether you want to grab a few drinks with friends, catch your favorite game, eat a delicious meal, or enjoy live entertainment every Friday and Saturday nights, Water Street is the place for a good time. Located across from Huddy Park on Robbins Parkway in downtown Toms River. Visit them at bakerswaterstreet.com.
This is Marianne Levy, News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310, broadcast from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio. From skilled pediatric services to adult care, Preferred does it all. Preferred Home Healthcare with feeling.
Pleasant weather expected as we go through the nighttime hours. Skies will begin to clear out. It's going to be a bit chilly. Lows in the low to mid-40s. Good deal of sunshine expected on Friday. Some clouds in the afternoon, a high of 59. And sun and clouds mixed on Saturday with a high back up to about 57. We get into Sunday, morning clouds, followed by afternoon sunshine, highs in the mid-60s. Some rain possible as we head into Sunday night and Monday. Monday's high 65. I'm meteorologist Mark Thibodeau from the Weather Channel.
1160 and 1310 WOBM.
Your home for high school football. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Thursday Night High School Football Show here, broadcasting live from Baker's Water Street Bar and Grill in downtown Toms River. The outside is closed for the season, although I'll tell you what, it could be open tonight, but plenty of room inside. Of course, they'll have the Thursday night football game, hockey, and all that on. Great place to watch your favorite game here. Of course, we're here every Thursday night talking high school football. Matt Harmon joins me, Ed Sarluca with the night off, back from his special assignment tomorrow, and a lot coming up, but we are all looking forward to tomorrow night's Jersey Mike's Game of the Week as the Mariners of Toms River North head to Keller Memorial Field to take on the undefeated Brick Green Dragons. Two guys probably looking forward to it a bit more than us are the Mariners head coach Dave Osowitz and his outstanding senior offensive guard Luke Butera. We thank you both for coming down tonight on the eve of a big game.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, good to talk to you. Dave, always good to see you. You come into this one playing real good football. You had that blip in week 2, the loss at Brick Memorial, and I think you've clearly answered the call, reeling off 5 consecutive victories, all fairly comfortable since then, and come into tonight's game or tomorrow night's game very much in control of your Class A South fate and probably feeling pretty good about your ball club.
Yeah, we're very excited about where we're at this point in the season. You know, when you start the season, you want to play meaningful games late in the year, late into October, around Halloween, into early November, and we got ourselves in that position. It was a tough loss to Brick Memorial, but, I think they're one of the better teams in the Shore for sure. We thought that going in, and, after the loss, we just kind of, we went back and we took a look analytically at what we did wrong and what we could do to get better, and we really challenged the kids, to basically every week, let's work every day to get a little better. And if we get a little better and the other teams don't, late in the year we'll be in good standing. And that's what our boys have done. We've gone back to work and they've practiced. They've learned to practice really well. We are very talented, but we're starting to play up to that potential now because of the way we practice. So very proud of the boys.
Luke, tell me what on offense right now, and I'd almost say everything. Everything seems to be working. I mean, the points that you guys have put up over the course of the last couple of weeks are pretty amazing. 55-42. 33, 45, 42. That's your scoring output during this 5-game winning streak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything's been working. I mean, we just try to run the ball down opponents' throats. I mean, we just try to physically, up front. It all starts with the lineman up front. If we don't dominate, we're not going to win a game. We are dominating up front, and that's why we're winning these games, because we are physically beating them up.
Coach, that sounds like a guy who loves what's going on right now offensively. We want to dominate. We want to run the football. Forget about throwing. Just Husney, just go one way, go the other. and any coach would tell you that winning that battle at the line of scrimmage is so important. You guys are doing it great right now.
Absolutely. We instill that in the kids, and, that's something that we kind of preach. We got to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. There's not a better pulling guard in the Shore Conference than Luke Butera. He's ultra bright, as hard a working kid as I've ever had. I was just telling Mom and Dad that, if you watched our jog through today, it's not really a walk through, it's jog through. This guy's pulling and kicking and honestly, like almost putting some of the scout players out. You got to tell him tone it back a little bit, because nobody loves and relishes the opportunity, to kick somebody out at the line of scrimmage as Luke Butera. And he's done that since his sophomore year. He started since his sophomore year. We were playing men. He was a young kid, and but he held his own his sophomore year, and he was really, really good last year. And now, in my opinion, he's a college football player. Potentially a scholarship football player, and there's not a better guard in the Shore Conference than him.
Luke, being an old offensive lineman and never a good one, I agree with you. The game is won up front. The skill players get the headlines, but let's face it, they're nothing without you.
Yes, sir.
But give me the rest of your guys up front. Give me the makeup of your offensive line. Let's give them a shout out, because they deserve credit too.
Tim Peterson, Will Sagarisi, Sai San Maria, Matt Malamed. We got Dan Benici as our sixth man, filling in for Isai. He's got a little bit of a knee injury. But all of us, we just work together, and we just have that chemistry, and we just go in and day out and just work our butts off.
Now, let me ask you that. Is the offensive line a unit? In other words, do you guys talk together, during practice or on the sidelines during a game? I mean, is there a lot of cohesiveness?
Of course, yeah. We have this chemistry, and we communicate well with each other. We really mesh together really well. We have so much experience within us, and I think that's what's really like the most important thing with the offensive line's communication and the way we mesh and the chemistry together.
Who's the vocal leader? Who's the guy when things aren't going well maybe says, hey,
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. I tell you what, if you speak, I'm listening. I'll just tell you that right now.
Coach, when you think about it and you say, playing since he was a sophomore, what is so different about Luke now as when he first started a couple years back? I mean, obviously, I'm sure he's bigger and stronger, but as an offensive lineman, is he a student of the game as well?
Yeah, absolutely. He's more vocal. He was a sophomore. He was just happy to be starting, and getting out there and hitting somebody, and competing. But, yeah, he's the vocal leader. He takes charge. He takes charge in the locker room. He takes charge on the practice field. During the game, he takes charge if things aren't going the way we want, and make sure they get fixed. When he comes off the field, he's the first one telling me, Coach, we got to run this.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, against Jackson Memorial, we go into halftime, and he came to the forefront there before, coaches are meeting everything in the office, and before we met with the boys, he said, Coach, we have to run zone immediately. And I said, okay, we'll get to it. He goes, no, Coach, first play. And he told me the formation. He told me where he wanted to go. First play, it creased it for 61 yards. Sante was gone. So we didn't call that. He did, and because we have trust. There is trust. There's bond there with the offensive line, but also with the coaching staff. We uniquely trust that group of boys. They've been together so long. There is a bond there. They understand schematically what we're trying to do against the fronts we're playing. They do make all the calls and checks. Teams, a lot of times when you run the spread, teams come out and run something totally different than they were running against everybody else because of the uniqueness of the offense and some of the pressure points we got. So these guys, a lot of times, they got to go against something they've never seen in practice. We try to do the best job we can of prepping for what we think's coming. But a lot of these defensive coordinators, they're pretty savvy, and they come up with something specifically for us. And these guys have been excellent. There's really been nothing defensively we've seen that they couldn't handle. So, yeah, he's as good as it gets.
Let me ask you this. A lot of Shore Conference teams are fairly one-dimensional.
Right.
You have teams that, might run like the Delaware Wing T, like a Shore Regional forever, and they're going to run the ball down your throat, and that's it. There are teams that are more proficient in the passing game. You are a true balanced offense. Obviously, you have outstanding running backs in Asante Moore and Darren Blackwell, guys who can go the distance. You have a terrific receiver in Carrington, who's a dangerous player. But you can do both. So you must feel that poses a great challenge for the defenses. They can't take one facet of your game away.
When we moved to the spread, when Mike Husney became the quarterback midway through his freshman year, when you run the spread, it's a numbers game. So if someone's going to stack the box against a run, and you have pressure points on the outside, where you have a Carrington or a Watts or any of these kids out there, you got to put talented kids out there. Of course, it starts with the line, but you have to take what they give you and then force their hand. And that's really our approach. We have a game plan, obviously, that we want to get into, and things that we would prefer to do perhaps going into a game. But if somebody's going to take away something by alignment or numbers, we feel confident, equally confident in our pass game, as to our run game as well. And we're just going to do what the defense, gives us, and then when they take that away, we'll go back to whatever else they're not defending.
Luke, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow night. Obviously, it's a huge game for both you and for Brick. I'm sure you've seen him. I don't know if you've seen him live and in person, but I'm sure you've watched him on tape. When you look at it, why has nobody been able to beat him during the course of this year? I think, it was a team going into the season that nobody quite was 100% sure how good they would be, but at this point, I think everyone can kind of say they're a good football team. They're 7-0.
Yeah, their defense, we're definitely keying on their defense because they fly to the ball. That's one of the best. That's one of the things I've saw is that every single white or green, whatever they're wearing, they're all flying to the ball, and they're always slaying and blitzing and doing all these things up front to try and fake out everyone on the offensive side. So I feel like they get in the minds of the offensive players early on, and then they just dominate you.
You said, Luke, that, the mindset is you got to win the battle up front. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt in my mind, looking at this game tomorrow night, whoever wins that battle comes out with the W. They have an outstanding defensive line. The Finelli brothers, Jordan Keefe, outstanding. They've given up 20 points in 7 games with 5 shutouts. How do you move the ball against them tomorrow night?
We got to play physical. We got to play tougher than they are. We have to beat them every single play. I mean, there's not going to be a playoff tomorrow night. I can guarantee you that.
Coach, when you think about it, and we did that Week 2 game against Brick Memorial, I think the one thing, and it's not meant in a negative light, the one thing walking off that field is it looked like at times, and Luke just kind of referenced it, talking about Brick getting in their head, it looked like Brick Memorial had kind of gotten into your guys' head a little bit. Right. If that's a concern going into this game with the Green Dragons, how do you keep everybody on an even keel to make sure that for the full game everybody's mentally in as much as physically? Just
worry about every snap. Just try to execute every snap. If you don't, go back in the huddle, try to execute a little better the next snap. We've preached that really since that game. We came a little unhinged in that game, and I think it was a good learning experience for our boys. There's 2 ways you can go with that. You can either fold and run, or you could fight and dig in and fight. And so we've talked a lot about that. It was a teachable moment, and going into this game, we've gotten better every single week. We're as prepared. I don't know if I would have wanted to necessarily see Brick Township week 1, 2, or 3. We weren't ready for them at that time, But it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. And right now, we're playing our best football. And for us, we know how good they are. We know what's at stake. We understand the challenge they present to us, and it's going to be a tremendous challenge. It really is. Mm-hmm. But something's got to give, we're just going to stick to our plan, and we're going to execute the best way we can. And at the end of the game, the best team's going to win.
For either of you, obviously going into the season, one of the goals is the Class A South title. Dave, I remember when you and I chatted in August, I came out to your practice we were doing our football preview, and you talked about A South. Every week, if you win this division, you've really accomplished something. Well, you're now in a position where a win tomorrow night gets you at least a piece of the A South title, and a piece is a heck of a lot better than none of it. So I got to believe that tomorrow night you're playing for what was one of your preseason goals.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to the kids. Number one, we want to beat Brick because they're our rival. We want to beat Brick. All right, it's the next game. We talk about the next game. Okay, we talked about that today. But yes, we're not trying to. We don't want to win the game because we want PowerPoints. We care less about that. We don't care about the playoffs. We want to go to Brick. It's a hallowed place. All right, they're going to have the jackets lined up, and okay, everyone's going to come out, and the place is going to be packed, and we relish that. There's 2 ways you could look at it. So you could kind of be down in the dumps because you're like, man, we got to go to Brick. No, we're embracing the challenge. Go there. Yes, Ace Out's on the line. It's something that we've desired greatly. But we want to go there and win because it's the next game, and it's Brick Township. Mm-hmm. It matters to our kids.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit here, Coach, because you just said we're not worried about the playoffs right now, but it is that time of the year that everybody kind of looks at everything now, not just division races. And you guys are one of those teams, and not only will you be a state playoff team, but you're in that weird bracket. Everyone else I feel like has a couple of short teams in there.
Right.
There's nobody in that bracket that you would probably see in that South Jersey 5. All those teams way down south.
Right.
Going into it just a little bit, how strong is that bracket right now?
I think it's always year in, year out for the most part. There's exceptions. It's the toughest public school bracket in the state. I mean, Cherokee's a perennial. contender champion. They're 2-time defending champs. They got a very strong team back. The leagues those teams play in, they beat up each other. So no one's ever undefeated. Cherokee last year at this time, I think they were 3-3. They went on a run. They beat, you know what I mean? So, we're not thinking about it, to be perfectly honest with you. None of us as coaches, we haven't gone and seen anybody, and because we got to worry about A-South. We got to worry about it means that much, the teams that we play here locally. Tomorrow night, that's the only thing we're focused on. We do feel we're in the playoffs, and whoever we draw. If we win, we'll draw somebody. If we lose, we're going to draw somebody. We're in. We accomplished that with the win against Southern Regional last week. So, South Jersey 5 is a bear for sure, but so is Brick Township. And so that's our focus, and that's our only concern, and we're ready.
Luke, the one good thing, and I don't want to take away from what Coach has said. It's taking one thing at a time. The one thing that you'll know come playoff time, and even these A-South games week in and week out, playing the competition that you guys do, there's no weeks off. You're ready for anything on a week-to-week basis.
Exactly. There is no weeks off playing the A-South, especially in the Shore Conference. I mean, it's like the SEC of college football, of high school football. It's honestly, it's an amazing experience to be playing in the Shore Conference, especially in the A-South, because it's always so competitive, and things can change on a dime like that. Like, it could be a Jackson and a Brick, and a Brick Memorial and a Brick. They're all great games. Toms River North and Brick. I mean, this is the stuff that we all look forward to, is playing all these teams.
Luke, I'm going to follow up. Coach said you've been a starter since your sophomore year. When you were a sophomore, you probably felt like, I have so much time left. Man, it's all going to get better. And then last year as a junior, your team had a good season. So now here it is, you're in week 8 of your senior season. And I know you want to play college football. We'll talk about that in a second. But you realize the high school clock is winding down. Like, you're going to run out to that field tomorrow night. There's going to be a couple of thousand screaming people there. There's not too many more of those moments. Do you take them in at all? I mean, do you ever run out on the field like, will you look up in the crowd tomorrow night and say, man, I'm glad to be here?
Oh, yeah, I will always relish that. I mean, it's the best. High school football, you never get it back. I mean, I've had so much fun these past 4 years, especially playing for Coach Oz. It's just been an amazing experience, the whole ride. I mean, I wouldn't change it one bit. I mean, I love it.
Coach, as we think about this season for you guys so far, and you talk about Luke maybe being one of the top offensive linemen in the Shore and running through some of the scout team guys, what happens when it's ones-on-ones and he pulls out and has to go against Deshaun Copes, who might be one of the best defensive linemen in the Shore?
That's a good question.
We've gotten away from that as the season's gone on, because guys were getting banged up. But all summer and right through early preseason, even into early September, we were going ones versus ones. And let me tell you something. Some days the offensive line won. Some days the defensive line won. Day-Day's a heck of a player. Luke's a heck of a player. But they've matched up quite a few times. And a little trash talking going back and forth, but both guys, ultra competitive. I think that's what makes both of those guys special. And we have a lot of very, very competitive kids on the football team. And I think that's, why we're, where we're at this point.
Luke, 10 matchups. How many do you win? How many does he win?
5 and 5.
5 and 5.
Basically an even draw.
A true politician.
All right.
We've got a couple of minutes left with Dave Osowitz and Luke Butera from Toms River North. They get set for their game tomorrow night at Brick. Luke, while we do have you, and you are a senior, give us a little thought on your college plans, where you're at. I know Coach raves about you academically. You're a very strong student, so I would imagine academics every bit as important as football when you make your choice for next year.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm getting heavy interest from a couple schools right now, especially Sacred Heart and Marist. So I'm going to take a trip up to those two schools within the next couple of weeks, see how I like it. And I don't have to make a decision yet, but I'm thinking, I'm keeping my options open.
Okay.
So.
But, Coach, I know you feel he can clearly play at the next level.
He's a scholarship offensive lineman. I've had coaches tell me absolutely he's an offer kid. It's just going to come down to, numbers for them, what they need, prioritize in terms of what they want. But, academically he's got everything. He's got all the scores. And, he, to me, and I think most people would agree, he's an all-league and potentially, if we do the things we need to do, a first-team All-Shore kid.
All right, let me ask you maybe the most important thing. See, Matt, this is not a dilemma for you tomorrow night because of where you live. Tomorrow is trick or treat.
It is, yeah.
Now, Dave, I've met your wife and your 3 young sons. Tomorrow is trick or treat in Toms River and the surrounding areas because of the parade on Saturday. Now, Luke, I would hope you would not have gone out. But listen, if you would have, I would have given you the whole basket. But What do you do, Coach Oz, tomorrow?
Well, I left it up to my wife. You know, I mean, I say, if you want to take the kids trick or treating, I understand. She said, no, we're going to a football game. You know, it's a brick game, so they're all going.
I told my family the same thing. You're going to the brick game, brick North game.
Issue
I don't think anyone's going to argue with you.
Yeah, no.
They could get some candy from the snack bar
Exactly.
and stop on the way, that kind of thing, bring it to the game. But no, it's a special game, for both sides, and it really is for just for fans to go and even to broadcast that kind of football game. The atmosphere there is going to be second to none, and I know all of us we're ready to go. We can't wait to get there.
The blue and gold against the green and white. It should be a great atmosphere tomorrow night. I know eve of a game, a lot on your mind. We really appreciate both of you coming down. Dave, you're always so cooperative with us. Luke, nice meeting you. Congratulations. I've always said offensive linemen are the best looking and smartest players on the team. So
absolutely.
To uphold the tradition.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for
We're going to take a break.
Thanks, sir.
We'll come back right after this. You're listening to the Thursday Night High School Football Show on the Shore Sports Network.
Thanks for having us.
Water Street Bar and Grill in downtown Toms River is the ultimate sports bar. With 32 HD TVs, Water Street brings you all the action of every football game. Located right on the water, Water Street is the perfect place to enjoy the finest views of the shore. Whether you want to grab a few drinks with friends, catch your favorite game, eat a delicious meal, or enjoy live entertainment every Friday and Saturday nights, Water Street is the place for a good time. Located across from Huddy Park on Robbins Parkway in downtown Toms River. Visit them at bakerswaterstreet.com.
At Jersey Mike's, we know busy lives and dinner don't always mix. But by making a sub above, we help make time for dinner time. With cold subs on warm nights and hot subs grilled for cool evenings. It's a really well-made meal, de-stressed. It's something really good, shared simply. It's a delicious dinner time in the bag. Jersey Mike's, be a sub above.
For the latest high school football news, visit shoresportsnetwork.com. News Talk Radio,
Tim is standing by.
AM 1160 and 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
That was a nice segment. Enjoyed talking with those guys and really looking forward to tomorrow night. We will broadcast that Toms River North Brick game. For those of you that want to still go trick-or-treating, you can follow it on 1160 and 1310 a.m. And, of course, always listen on the computer at shoresportsnetwork.com, or you can go on download the free Radio Pup app, which our company provides, and pick up WOBM AM and listen to the game that way while you're out trick-or-treating. Nope. Hold on. Not a problem. There we go. There's Matt.
I kind of liked that there was no dilemma
There
at
was
all.
no dilemma.
No dilemma. Going to the football game. That's it. Going to the football game.
Candy anytime. Well, I'll tell you what. It has been, we love talking about, teams that have had a down period, even if it's a brief one, and then they bounce right back. And certainly the story at Asbury Park has been a very good one this fall. The Blue Bishops lost their season opener in overtime to Point Pleasant Beach. Well, they've reeled off 5 consecutive wins and are clearly poised to make a run at a division title. We'll get to that in a second, but we get to welcome in the first-year head coach. He's a Blue Bishop through and through, and that is Tim Foscue, who is good enough to join us. Coach, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and it's so nice to talk to you. And Asbury Park was 2-8 last year. Much made of the fact that for the school, 4th head coach in 4 years. But for you, this was just a matter of staying or going home, because I know Asbury Park has been a part of your life forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an alumni of Asbury Park. I played football in Asbury Park, and it's a place, the only place that I've coached at for the past 15 years. So it's definitely true and dear to me and close to home.
Coach, and I think everyone understands maybe some of the challenges that go along with coaching at Asbury. How important is it for someone like yourself? You just mentioned an alum, former player, and I know Lamar Davenport is back helping things out, former player at Monmouth, who I know from doing the games up there, and a great kid. How important is it to have that kind of community feel to try and rebuild what was once a really proud program?
I think it's very important. You're bringing in staff and, individuals that, from the area that have had some of the similar experiences, that our athletes have had, day in and day out, on and off the field, especially off the field, in Asbury Park, and it's just, you know, a relatable situation for those athletes to see people that were once in their position, you know, rise from that particular situation and, you know, come out, you know, those two positive things, come back home and give back. That's why, you know, bringing Davenport on staff was definitely, you know, a major plus for me, you know, taking the head coach job, because he's very close, you know, to these kids' generations and been through the same, if not even more, severe experiences that they had. So, you know, to bring him on and to see, you know, what kind of progress that he has made, you know, in the same environment, it's definitely been, you know, a great plus for the program and the inspiration, you know, for the kids that are in our program, giving them, you know, the hope, the dedication, the inspiration, and just, you know, all out the willingness to say, hey, it can be done.
Well, that's well said, and it's obviously has worked up till this point. You come back with this season, and maybe after last year, Asbury fell off the radar just a little bit. People maybe have forgotten the fact that this is one of the perennial Central Jersey Group 1 powers, won the 3 straight sectional championships not all that long ago. And maybe people like us in the media didn't know what to expect, but I know one thing. You had 2 great foundational players to build around on your offense. Your quarterback, David Thompson, and an outstanding wide receiver in Jaden Stevens. And, boy, those guys have performed up to all your expectations, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the leadership and dedication that these guys have given us, you know, not only during the season, but, you know, mainly off the season, to really pull the team together and just buy into a program of preparation and dedication, you know, has really, you know, paid off. And I mean, I can't say enough about, you know, Jaden Stevens, you know, in terms of what he is as a football player and an individual, and to see him really excel on the football field is just, you know, it's just a tribute to what it takes and what you need to do in order to just be successful and a role model for the kids, the younger kids that are in the program to build on. And Devon Thompson, of course, he's a kid that's very talented, you know, that got his opportunity, you know, midway through last season and, you know, had some challenges. And for him to overcome those challenges, you know, off the field and dedicate himself on the field and in the classroom, you know, it's just been, you know, definitely a positive and a plus for our football program and family.
Coach, you have Keansburg tomorrow night as you'll try and go to 6-1 on the year, but it's pretty hard to ignore the week after that game against Shore Regional, which you'll have an opportunity to do something that few have been able to do over the course of the last couple of years, and that is beat the Blue Devils, especially at home. I know every coach has to take it one at a time, but how difficult has it been for you as the head coach and the staff trying to keep the players focused, because obviously the understanding is without a win this week, that game next week doesn't have as much meaning.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's one game at a time, and, you know, we stay focused, you know, of course, like every program, and, you know, at the game that's at hand. So we want to take care of the business that's in front of us first, and the opponent that, you know, we have to face coming up this week in Keansburg, you know, which I think is a young team. You know, they're pretty good up front, and you know, it's going to be a challenge. So, you know, we're going to try to take care of that business as best we can, and, you know, look forward to, you know, going into next week, you know, on the up, you know, coming off of a win, and that'll definitely help, you know, the motivation and definitely confidence, you know, going into that Shore Regional football game.
Talking with Asbury Park head football coach Tim Foscue. His Blue Bishops lost their opener, have won 5 straight, put themselves in a position to get a piece possibly of the Class B Central title. But, of course, he said Keansburg is the first issue tomorrow night. Maybe we're surprised in the media a little bit about the 5-1 record. Are you surprised? Are you ahead of schedule?
You know, I really didn't go into the season, you know, really looking at the wins and losses and sizing up the opponent. You know, for me coming in as the head coach, it was really just to really build a program that would really, you know, support the kids in such a way and prepare the kids, you know, on the field, but more importantly off the field for the challenges, you know, of life that they face, and put in the proper safety nets, you know, that can, you know, really support and assist them. And with that, you know, attitude of working hard, you know, preparing and just staying focused and dedicating yourself, you know, would translate, you know, into success on the field. And, you know, that's the biggest attribute to it paying off, which, has the kids buying into the program and really going out each and every week and just giving their all and being resilient, about what the program, creed is and, philosophy of the program. Of course, my coaching staff, coming back, taking this particular job was a no-brainer for me because I am surrounded with a great coaching staff, that's been a part, of the winning tradition here at Asbury Park. So, we at this point, I thought, hey, if we dedicate ourselves, we really do have the pieces that can really, do some good things. So, it worked out in that favor, and, we bounced back from that first loss, put some things together, and sort of been on the run since.
Coach, when you think about it, and having been being affiliated with the program for so long, and really a love for Asbury football, when things were good back several years ago, they were really good. I mean, you guys were the class of the division, class of Central Jersey Group 1. Good season so far after a 2-win year a season ago. How close do you maybe feel like Asbury is to turning the corner? I'm not going to, put pressure on and say win state championships every year, but I mean to be a good, solid, consistent program year in and year out.
I think that the things that we're doing right now as a program and the coaching staff, in terms of putting together a real cohesive program, that comprises on and off the field, incorporating. We just launched a middle school program, which we're very successful this year. So we can continue to just buy down and feed our kids through the system and keep our kids in the system. I think that, in the years to come, we'll have the athletes be able to be successful year in and year out. And, that's what we're really looking forward to. The talent is definitely here, in our town, and the tradition is here. We just have to continue to just nurture, the athletes that we have, matriculate them through, feed them up and, put them through and prepare them, for life off the field and the success that they would have on the field and past Asbury Park. So, that's very key.
Well, you're sitting right now as the top seed in Central Jersey Group 1 in very good shape. Clearly going to make the playoffs for the 19th time in school history, and obviously some big football games down the way. Boy, you've meaningful football in the month of November played at Asbury Park. We greatly appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. We congratulate you on what you've accomplished so far on the field, maybe more importantly off the field, and wish you nothing but the best down the road. Look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Good talking to you, Coach. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That's Asbury Park coach Tim Foscue. They've got it going pretty well. I'm glad you mentioned Lamar Davenport, and clearly for him, it's been a big reason for their success. He was a very popular player at Monmouth University and goes back to the neighborhood, so to speak, and gives back.
Yeah, and, having seen him play over his time at Monmouth and remembering how good he was in Asbury, it's a hard place to be sometimes, and I you don't mean it with any disrespect, but there's certain challenges there that exist that don't exist at a whole lot of other places. And to me, when Asbury is good, I think it's one of those places that it's good for the shore when Asbury's good, because you can kind of ignore some of the other questions and some of the other stuff that maybe pop up from time to time. And, every school has its issues, but Asbury's can sometimes be pretty unique. So when the football team is good, when there's success at the basketball team, which they've had at times, I think it just helps make the community and the surrounding area that much better than what it could be.
You know what? We talked to Coach Foscue. It's like talking to L.J. Clark from Lakewood a couple weeks ago. Both of them have no problem with addressing the fact that there are challenges, and much of what they do is about off the field, not on the field. Maybe something you don't hear as much from other schools. So I agree with you. I do think it's good. I think it's good for Shore Conference football in Asbury and Lakewood and schools like that. It's important to their communities. I think it's nothing but a positive.
Nobody's going to have a good year every year.
No,
everyone's going to have a down year, but there are certain schools that when they're down for an extended amount of time, you start to worry just a little bit about them. So to be able to turn things around, especially off a loss. I mean, you go back, you lose week 1 to Point Beach, and you're like, oh, boy, they were 2-8 last year. Is it going to be another long year in Asbury? To be 5-1 right now, let's say they get the win over Keensburg and be the one team that could stand in the middle for Shore Regional to win another division championship, I think just kind of shows what they've been able to do all season long.
Well, never a down year for Bob Batters.
Questionable.
We take a quick break, and we come back and we chat with our guy, the Shore Sports Network football maven. After this, you're listening to the Thursday Night High School Football Show on the Shore Sports Network.
Water Street Bar and Grill in downtown Toms River is the ultimate sports bar. With 32 HD TVs, Water Street brings you all the action of every football game. Located right on the water, Water Street is the perfect place to enjoy the finest views of the shore. Whether you want to grab a few drinks with friends, catch your favorite game, eat a delicious meal, or enjoy live entertainment every Friday and Saturday nights, Water Street is the place for a good time. Located across from Huddy Park on Robbins Parkway in downtown Toms River. Visit them at bakerswaterstreet.com.
Your home for high school football. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Well, the fall is a busy season for all of us, including this guy who's all over the football landscape, and that is our guy from the Shore Sports Network, Bob Batters, who joins us every Thursday night. And boy, Bob, you know, it's the final weekend of October. I mean, you wake up, Sunday is November 1st. It is really crunch time for a lot of teams. And clearly, I think you'd agree with us, the game on the calendar, though, this weekend is Toms River North at Brick.
Certainly, Kevin. There's big games every week now, and this is going to be a huge one. Friday night at Keller Memorial Field. Brick still has to play Toms River South, but you look at the way everything is broke this season. This is pretty much for the division title, and you have that amazing defensive Brick, 5 shutouts already this season, 20 points allowed against this dynamic Toms River North offense that can beat you in so many different ways and is super talented and is playing very well. So I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be one of the better games of the season.
Bob, what do you see just a little bit more on that game? What do you see giving? Which unit gives a little bit easier to have success down the line for one of those teams?
That's a tough one. I mean, you look at how good Brick's defense has been, but at the same time, if you can score some points on them, if this Toms River North, you put their offense in a situation that it hasn't been in at all this year, and that's when it's had to come from behind and really move the ball maybe through the air. Brick's offense kind of done what it's wanted to because the defense has played so well. Not saying Brick's defense is going to be the first to crack, but I think that would be interesting just to see Toms River get some points on the board, if they can, and see how Brick would respond that way.
We're going to chat with Tyler Thompson in just a few minutes, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about an interesting game on the schedule tomorrow night, and that is Ocean, who Matt said earlier, coming off a bye with 2 weeks to get ready, goes into Red Bank Catholic, the third straight grinder for the Caseys, Red Bank, Manalapan, and now Ocean.
Absolutely. This is a big game. Red Bank Regional, certainly with the win over RBC, has put themselves in position to lock it up with one more win. So divisional impact, nothing here, but both teams have a lot on the line state playoff-wise. And Red Bank Catholic really responded in a nice way with the 33-14 win over Manalapan. Eddie Hahn had probably his best game of the whole season, 261 yards passed and a couple touchdowns, 87 rushing yards. Ocean, the thing that stood out to me first is obviously Ocean has Tyler Thompson, one of the best running backs in the Shore and also in New Jersey. And the last 2 opponents for Red Bank Catholic have been able to run the ball on the Keys, which hasn't been the case for a few years now. In the Red Bank game was Aleem Godsey over 100 yards, and even last week Marcus Salinas ran for over 100 yards too. So if Thompson can have a big game there, certainly Ocean has a huge chance in that one, and that would really be a big win for the Spartans.
Bob, tell me how much Shore Regional should be worried this week taking on an old foe in Point Pleasant Beach on the road.
Well, they definitely have to be wary of them because these two teams have a history playing a bunch of times recently, in the regular season to decide the title, and a couple times in the playoffs. Certainly the one that Point Beach won for its first state title. Shore, though, to me, they are a buzzsaw. You look at what they do week in, week out. They're putting points on the board. They're blowing teams out in the first half. The only close game they had was that 7-3 victory over Spotswood, it was, I believe. But in every other game, they have players, Jack Britton last week, 122 yards rushing, only had 7 carries. Didn't even play the second half. So I just think right now, Shore, of course, they have to worry about Point Beach. They're not going to take any team lightly, though. That's why they're as good as they are. And, they're a force right now. They're certainly the favorite, not just to win this division, but for me to repeat and win Central Jersey Group 1 again.
You know, Bob, and we're talking with Bob Batters of the Shore Sports Network. We chatted when we did our football preview in the beginning of the year about the wild and wacky Class B South race. I don't think any of us would have expected that two teams have really separated themselves from the field, and those two teams are Point Borough and Lakewood, who should get, if they get through this weekend, are on a collision course to meet next Saturday for the B South title. Surprised by that fact?
I am, because it's funny you said it. I was looking at the standings the other day, and usually at this point of the year, everyone has a loss. Some teams have 2 losses, still in contention. You don't know what's going to happen with the division title. But for the entire season, it's been Lakewood and Point Borough from the start, both undefeated in division, as you mentioned. Lakewood with its first loss of the season last week to Rumson, who's our number 5 team. Point Borough with a really good 33-27 win over Raritan. So both teams will be playing well, and if they can take care of business this week, that's going to be a great game. I certainly, for the division title next Saturday. So, both are expected to win their games this week. So, I'm already looking forward to that one too. Going and trying to plan ahead the schedule. That game jumps out. Should be a good time.
1 minute.
Bob, one more for you, and this was something I talked to about with Kevin in the beginning part of the show. St. John Vianney and Middletown South. How even are those two teams right now? I know they're the top 2 teams in the poll, but when you look at them, how close are they?
And I heard you mentioning that earlier, Matt. And yeah, that'd be a fun game to watch for sure. I mean, you look at Middletown South, and they are good everywhere, and I think that's what makes them so great. With St. John Vianney, you look at what they've done: 56 points against Raritan, 63 last week at Donovan Catholic. Anthony Brown has almost 1,300 passing yards, 18 times.
30 seconds.
He's also ran for 400 yards. So he is, Offensive Player of the Year candidate, certainly right there. Their offense is incredible. Their defense, I think, doesn't get noticed as much because of what the offense is doing, but there's some very good players there. Linebackers Tyler Tedeschi, the senior Calvin Beatty. So that'd be a fun one. If you could somehow organize that one, I'd be all for it.
Bob, thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you over the weekend, and always appreciate your contributions.
Guys, thanks. I'll see you Friday.
All right, you sure will. That's Bob Batters. We come back on the other side. We'll talk with Ocean running back Tyler Thompson. Mom with Coach Kevin Callahan on deck as well. You're listening to the Thursday Night Football Show on the Shore Sports Network.